Peace Queen. It's Melissa Crawford of thequeencode.com. And my message today is actually part one of another series that I was inspired to do. And it's not like the other series, it's not a 3-part series. This is actually a 12-part series because it's about an issue that we as women need to really take a deep dive into. And what I'm talking about is character. So this 12-part series is about the character of a queen. You know, right now in this age, it's a wonderful time to be a woman. We are in a season of great restoration for women. When you look all over the world, women are rising up. We're reclaiming things that we've lost along the way. Our dreams, our hopes, our desires, our wisdom, our intuition, our power. We're reclaiming, our femininity. That's very important. We're reclaiming those things and we're rediscovering what it truly means to be a woman, to be totally in our power, to be queen. And even though it's a beautiful thing and it's great to see women rise, as I'm looking at how we're showing up in the world, as I'm observing that, it became very apparent to me that it's time for us to do an even deeper dive on the issue of character. So, again, that's why I wanted to do this series, because we are really coming into our own, into our leadership. We have great work to do and we have to be equipped to do that work. So it really takes character. In my book, From Good to Great, I talk about God being in the character building business. And it's absolutely true. It's the way that we really go to the next level. When you think about the journeys that we take, the journeys of adversity or the hardships that we take, when you think about those journeys, it's really all about the character building. What we learn through that journey, what we learn when we persevere, what we learn when we overcome, really builds our character. So that when we are at that next level in our lives, we are sustained, we are established. And that's the divine order of doing things. If you've ever been in a situation where you've had the experience of getting things and losing things, and you're getting what seems like success, but then you lose it all, and going back and forth and vacillating, that is a key indicator that we are not in divine alignment. Because the promise that God has for the queens, and really for all of us, right? But we're talking about the queens right now, is for us to be established. We are to be established, not all the going back and forth and the getting things and losing things, but in order for us to be established on our thrones, it takes character. So in this series, that's what I want to look at, just 12 points of character that even if you're already practicing these things, it's time to check it, because I believe right now in this season, no matter where you are, how long you've been working on yourself, we're all being called to step our game up, because there's a great work to be done. Have you seen the news lately? There's a lot of good that's going on in the world that they don't talk about, but there's also a lot of chaos and a lot of destruction. And I believe that men are equally as powerful. This Queen Code message is not to male bash. I love our kings. I love my own king very much so. It's not to throw the king off his throne, but it's to join him there and reign along with him on our throne. So I believe that men are very important, but as I look at the chaos and the destruction in the world, I just totally believe that the feminine principle, that women stepping into their power, will actually help restore our world to a more peaceful place. I just believe that the world, our communities, our families, our children are really suffering from a lack of our expression, from a lack of our dreams and our hopes and our inspiration. We have to get that out. And I know you may be saying, well, Melissa, I'm not trying to save the world. I'm just trying to focus on what I'm going to feed my kids for dinner tonight, But really, it's not necessarily about trying to save the world, but it's about really transforming yourself. Because when we transform ourselves, when we really step up to the plate and really begin to build that character, all of a sudden we see that ripple effect. how transforming ourselves transforms our family, that transforms the community, that transforms the world. So our focus should always be first and foremost in being the change that we desire to see. So let's work on our character. So the first thing that I want to bring to you is the issue of how we do show up in the world when we're out and about, when you're running errands, when you're in the public eye. As you can probably see behind me, and I have, crowns all over my office, I actually competed in pageants for 10 years, 19 crowns. And I remember with every organization that I represented, I would do appearances and things like that. And I remember going on my appearances and, you were to act a certain way because you had the crown on your head and, you were very presentable and you dressed a certain way. And, I'm a teenager in my early 20s at the time. And you would act that way when you had the crown on your head. But then when the crown was off, you went back to being who you were. But as I retired from pageantry and as I began to come into my own, I realized that we should always be wearing that invisible crown. The crown for a queen is a sign of overcoming. Every jewel in her crown is a symbol of the things that she's overcome. And we should always be wearing that crown in the spirit. It's not just for when the right people are around that we, show exemplary character. No, all the time we need to. And I'm not talking about perfection. I'm not talking about being fake. I'm talking about realizing that you are a queen, that you are, that you have a great responsibility, and that you can't just act like everybody else. That you're being held to a higher standard. And it's time for us to own that. So here's what I mean. When we're out and about and, you're going by your day-to-day, or you're at an event, or you're at work, or you're around people, how are you showing up even when you think no one is watching? How are you showing up? Because the truth is, we're always being watched. How are you showing up? Someone is always watching you, especially our young girls. Our young girls right now really need us to step into our power so they can have examples of what it's like to be women of character, to be women of great self-worth. So always knowing that you're being watched. I'll give you an example. It's just a small example, but the other day, I was at Cracker Barrel getting some dinner, and I had a long day, but productive day. It was a good day, but it was just a long day, and I had just come from running 8 miles because I'm training for a marathon, and I was tired. I was mentally tired. I was exhausted. My body was exhausted. My legs were burning. All I wanted to do was go in Cracker Barrel, get my takeout order, go back home and eat and call it a night. So I get to Cracker Barrel, I'm in line, and this woman, she's obviously, happy, bubbly, and just totally oblivious to the fact that there's a line behind her. And here I am tired, and she's just going on and on and on to the cashier. She's done, but she's just talking. And my first response was to do something like go, or something to let her know that there's a line of people behind her. Could you please, hurry it up? And the one thing I always say when I want to get into that lower nature, I always think to myself, what would the queen do? Because the queen really is a state of consciousness. She's a state of being, a state of awareness. And we may not always be in that state of awareness. But to snap myself back in, I always ask myself that question, what would the queen do in a situation like this? And the minute I asked that question, I got right back into alignment. I stood there, I waited patiently, and the lady eventually left, and I walked up and took my order. Now, here's why that's important, because I could have rolled my eyes, made a face, but who's watching me as I'm doing that? We are so powerful. We have to understand how we're showing up in the world really affects other people. And like I said, the world right now is starving for exemplary character and great leaders. So who would have been watching me roll my eyes, blow, make all kinds of gestures because she's, not being aware of her surroundings? So that's just one simple example of how we can really begin to be cognizant and aware and always wear our invisible crown. Because the truth is, how many times have I been really happy and just chatting it up with somebody and not aware of my surroundings? You know, a lot of things that irritate us about other people, we actually do. So, Queen, always wear your invisible crown. Know that the queen character is so important to really not only transforming ourselves, but also transforming our family, which transforms our communities, which transforms our world. Okay, that's really all of our assignment here on this earth. We're needing a lot of healing, a lot of restoration, and it starts with being the change that you want to see. So those times in your life when you want to pick up the phone and you let somebody have it, or you want to do the road rage thing, or remember that you are a queen and you're being held to a higher standard. When you get in that dark place and you want to act from your past or act from your lower nature, just simply ask yourself, what would the queen do? And proceed from that point. Now, it's a simple question, but I'm telling you, it is a powerful manifestation tool. Because even at your lowest points, when you start acting from your higher self, that will transform things faster than you could even imagine. I've seen it in my own life, and I know that it can happen for you as well. So that's my message today. That's part one of the character of a queen. Begin to look at how you're showing up in the world. You know, don't go to the grocery store in your house shoes. Somebody's watching you, even when you think someone's not. Okay? That's the message. In the meantime, I do have a wonderful gift for you. If you go to my site at www.thequeencode.com, you can get a copy of the free audio, Queen, You Were Born to Succeed, because you absolutely were, and it's time for us to get in divine alignment with that. This is a wonderful time to be a woman, as I said. So go and get that free training and really listen to the principles and apply them and watch your life transform. Again, that's www.thequeencode.com, and I'll talk to you soon.